There are videos, articles, books, and albums that compile the songs that the Beatles gave to other artists. Some of them very successful.
Please lock me away.
And others to be forgotten. It is known that most of these cases are filler songs that the band considered of a lower level to record themselves as part of their official catalog. But what would you think if we broke down some of the band's classic songs that were on the verge of being given away to other artists? In today's video, we're going to talk about some Beatles classics that were at the risk of being given away and not recorded by the band.
Something in the way she moves.
Something is one of the band's most beautiful and successful songs. After Yesterday, it is the second most covered Beatles song by other artists, and even Frank Sinatra praised it as the greatest love song ever written.
Something in the way she moves.
The success of the song, which was the Beatles' first number one that was not written by Lennon or McCartney, was on the verge of being given away. George Harrison still did not have absolute confidence in his abilities as a composer. Lennon and McCartney still did not give him many spaces in the band's albums.
No one's fighting the pain.
Just run along, son. We'll see you later. Rock and roll band, you know. Boom, ba boom, ba boom.
Who's the tell you something?
It's the word is Bulgarian.
George was composing more and more and thought about giving his songs to other artists, the chance to continue developing as a composer. Faced with the uncertainty of the band's future after the Get Back sessions, George kept the song for fear that the group would not pay enough attention, as had happened previously with other songs he tried and were discarded by the band. So Harrison thought of offering Something to Jackie Lomax, who had already recorded another of the band's discards from the White Album period, Sour Milk Sea. When this failed, Harrison decided to record it with the Beatles for the Abbey Road album. It won the respect of John and Paul and was chosen as a single and reached number one. Almost at the same time, the song was also given to Joe Cocker, who released his version 2 months before the Beatles. The rest was history. But can you imagine if Something had been recorded by Lomax? Another similar story. McCartney said that he had the idea of Let It Be after he had a dream about his mother during the tense period surrounding the sessions for the White Album in 1968. The song had some detractors, and John Lennon was one of them, who hated the puritanism of the song and went so far as to say that it may have been a Wings song, but had nothing to do with the Beatles. Paul McCartney used to use the exercise of thinking of certain singers or composers when creating songs to make a similar composition. When he was making Let It Be, he thought of Aretha Franklin, and very early on in its development, he thought of giving her the song as a gift. In the end, Aretha did record the song.
Let it be. Let it be.
And released it before the Beatles did in January of 1970, on the album This Girl's in Love with You, along with a version of Eleanor Rigby. And while it may have been left as a gift, eventually Paul became obsessed with his song being released as the band's single. Come Together was written as a request. Timothy Leary, the LSD priest, was running for governor of California and asked Lennon for a campaign song with his slogan, Come Together.
Come together.
Lennon gave Leary a tape with the slogan, Come Together and Join the Party. Lennon promised to finish and record the song, and somehow he did it, but completely departing from the political purposes for which it was conceived. Under a new melody, taking the idea of Come Together and inspired by Chuck Berry's You Can't Catch Me, Lennon made his last great contribution to a Beatles album. With Leary, things didn't end so well. When he heard the new Beatles song, he sent a letter to John complaining, but Lennon replied that he was a tailor, and that Leary was a customer who ordered a suit, but never came back. So, he sold it to someone else.
Over me.
Composed the same night as Let It Be, this Paul McCartney song was not exactly written to be a Beatles track, or at least not at the beginning. For Paul, the song was too melodramatic for the band's sound, so McCartney thought about giving it to Tom Jones or Cilla Black. In 2012, Jones told how in 1968 he met Paul McCartney in a pub in London and asked Paul when he was going to write a song for him, to which Paul replied that yes, he would do it. Within weeks came The Long and Winding Road. The only condition was that it came out as his next single. Jones couldn't do it because of commitments and ended up turning the song down. The record company was gearing up towards the release of it. The timing was terrible, but I asked if we could stop everything and I could do the long and winding road. I was kicking myself, he said. I knew it was a strong song. A similar case happened with Yesterday. Besides the fact that it was the first ballad that completely broke with the traditional Beatles sound, John, George, and Ringo did not show much enthusiasm for the song. There was little or nothing they could bring to the song, so this led to McCartney's insecurities about whether or not it could be a song by the Beatles. Paul McCartney and George Martin thought about releasing it as a solo song by Paul. Also, McCartney explored the possibility of recording it with the BBC Radiophonic Workshop in a much more experimental version. In the end, they ended up adding the string quartet, and the song became the one we all know. But for some moments, it was thought that it was not a Beatles track. So that's it for today. Like these 5, there are other examples, such as Not Guilty. When it was discarded from the White Album, George Harrison thought of giving it to Peggy Lee. So comment below, what other stories would you like to hear on the channel? Or if you'd like to see a part 2, subscribe to our channel and like us. Thanks for watching. This is Music Box.